Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another installment in my How to Carry a Support for League of Legends series that I've already done a few videos for. Be sure to check out the channel as well. I have a ton of VODs and I do streams almost daily for how to get to support. I'm currently a Diamond 5 solo queue support player as of the 6.22 patch. So just at the very end of the season, start of the preseason, I'm a Diamond player. Okay, so let's get into this real quick. So I've already talked in the past about a tier list and just 5 general tips for how to carry support and then managing your lane, so how to win the laning phase as support, thinking about different matchups. I'm going to do another video about thinking about different team compositions and which champions counter other champions, so stay tuned for that soon. But for this video, I wanted to talk about a concept that I like to call winning the map. So a lot of people, I think, inaccurately believe that winning the lane equals winning the game. That's a very common mantra that you hear, right? People think that if you get more kills in lane, if you get more CS than your enemy, then you should win the game because you have an early game advantage over everyone else. And, you know, sometimes you might hear streamers say, well, you have to push that advantage. You have to take that advantage that you have in lane and go push it and win the game. But most people aren't really that clear, and a lot of pros know these things that I'm going to say, but I'm trying to inform you of these things to help you make a better player. So winning the lane is not winning the game because it's too myopic, it's too self-centered, it's not looking at the big picture enough often, and people get frustrated, right, because they think, oh, I'm constantly winning my lane, so why am I not winning the game more? I always get a few solo kills in my lane, and I always am up CS, but I don't win. And a lot of times they'll play champions that don't really help you win the map. So, you know, they'll play something like Darius top or Riven top and get a bunch of kills earlier in the game, and then they'll not be able to figure out why they can't close out the game. Or you'll play Zyra, like I do a lot of support, and you'll just dominate. You'll deal a bunch of damage. You'll just completely smash your opponent in lane, but yet your win percentage, at least if you're me, is going to be much lower with Zyra than it is with other champions like Nautilus and Janna. And you might wonder, well, why is that? Or why don't I see the strategy professor win more games as Zyra when he dominates the lane so hard? And I'm going to explain it to you right here. So it's because these champions often that will dominate the lane early do not win the map in the mid and late game. And let me talk about what I mean by winning the map here. I'm going to show you how you can apply this to how you pick champions and how you play the lane and how you play the game throughout. Okay, so winning the map is all about learning how to prioritize and get objectives. Right, that's what it's all about. It's not about winning the lane. It's not about which lane you're in. It's not about who's losing and who's winning lanes. Like, you can do these things even if your mid and top lane feed and you just do okay in the bottom lane. You can see that in some of my replays where there's somebody that just feeds a ton and we still end up winning the game because I helped them win the map. Okay, so I'm going to have a few sections here. First of all, it's going to be understanding objectives. So how do you know what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to take at different points in the game? And then I have different ways of winning the map. I think I have 5, 6 different ways of winning the map. And then I have the best supports to help you win the map and why. So that's kind of going to be how I break this down. Okay, first up, so understanding objectives. So this is the order priority that you need to be thinking of when you're thinking, I want to get an objective here. Inhibitor, always better than Baron. Sometimes people debate this. Sometimes people think, oh, if I get Baron, it's a lot of gold, right? Like it's 1,500 gold. And if I get Baron, then I can go take multiple inhibitors. But this is not accurate. You want the inhibitor because it gives you a lot of extra map pressure. And map pressure, you can use that to help you go get the Baron later. Or to help you get other lanes later. And a major reason why inhibitor is better than Baron is people can't smite steal the inhibitor. Right? So if you're in solo queue, you don't want to get into a smite fight. I'll talk about that here in a second. But the enemy jungler can't steal the inhibitor. Right? Like, if you go up and kill the inhibitor and then run away, then they're not going to be able to steal that. It's just going to happen. It's, you know, if you time it right, it's going to be guaranteed. And you get away and do whatever you want elsewhere on the map. Whereas Baron can be stolen, and that happens a lot, and it's really bad. It's very demoralizing, and it gives the enemy team a massive advantage. That's why Inhibitor is greater than Baron. They're both give you a ton of extra power, but one of them can be stolen, and one of them cannot be stolen. So Baron is obviously something that you want to try to get, but you need to have a lot more setup for that. Like you need to have vision secured around the area. You need to have it swept. We'll talk about setting up for objectives here in a second. I mean, to have the lanes pushed up, and you need to have the jungler under control. He either needs to be dead, he or she, or that you need to have someone zone them properly, or you need to coordinate with your team to get your team to stop fighting the Baron and to kill the jungler if they show up. All of which are a lot more tricky than trying to get an inhibitor. Elder Dragon is behind Baron. I really don't like that buff. I mean, they did buff the timing on it a little bit, but it doesn't give you any extra lane pressure or lane push. It gives you some extra stats, which are cool. But a lot of those dragon stats also are like out of combat stats in terms of the wind dragon and the water dragon. So it's not going to benefit you that much in combat. It does give you the true damage on attack, but the only thing that's really going to benefit you in combat if you go fight the other team is going to be if you have a bunch of infernals and you get the bonuses on those. That's really strong. So Elder Dragon, obviously good, but it's a lot harder to kill than Baron, and the buff is not worth nearly as much as the Baron buff is. Okay, towers, almost always better than Dragon because it gives you extra map pressure and it gives you a lot of extra gold. So if you're trading a tower for a dragon, often that's not a good trade early on. Especially if it's wind dragon or water dragon. I do love the water dragon, but towers are just so important. Like not only for lane pressure, but they allow you to get more wards and catch people out. That's how you progress the game. That's how you start winning the game, is by taking towers. Dragons don't really help you win. They kind of help you win the game, but not as much as towers. So, you know, a tier 1 tower for a dragon is very, very close. It depends on the dragon. If it's an infernal or a mountain dragon, depending on your team comp and their team comp, it might be worth it. But in general, I would say err on the side of tower. So if you have a chance to take bottom lane tower or to take dragon, in other words, after you get a gank or a kill, get the tower. Trust me, get the tower first and then go to dragon. Now, sometimes if you get a kill bottom and the tower's at full health and the dragon's just sitting there, then it might be worth it to go get the dragon instead, because you may not be able to finish off the tower in time. But if you can, try to prioritize towers over dragons. Dragons are good, but towers are map pressure. Now, minor objectives. So these are things that you should also be thinking of, but they are much, much less important than these other things. So the first one is buffs. So blue buff, red buff. Do not go get blue buff or red buff when your team has Baron and you're trying to push and get towers or inhibitors. I've seen a Diamond 3 player do this before on stream on one of my VODs. Someone that I play with a lot, who's a great guy. He's an awesome player, but I was just like, what the heck is he thinking? Going for this, right? Because we were pushing for inhibitor and he just like breaks away from the group and goes to go get their red buff really quickly. And then the team wipes and I think they end up winning the game in large part because of that. So just do not get baited by these buffs. They are not that important. They are okay. If you don't have anything else to do, literally like almost anything else to do on the map, then the buffs can be okay. So if you kill somebody and they have really good wave clear at a tower, there's no way you're going to take the tower. Baron's not an option. Dragon's dead. Blue buff's just sitting there. Then yes, okay, go get the blue buff if you can't get anything else. But you know, if inhibitor, Baron, Elder Dragon, towers, or dragon are available, then you need to go get those instead of those buffs because they're okay. But all of the big buffs up, or all the big objectives up here, are way, way more important. All right, Scuttle Crab. Go get that Scuttle Crab if you can. You know, if you're just sitting around, you just grab the dragon and you have a couple extra seconds, just grab the Scuttle. It's an extra free ward in the river, and it lets you rotate really quickly from, you know, top river to bottom, or from mid, or from bottom to mid, or from mid to top, or vice versa. It just helps you with mobility and gives you a free ward, so why not just grab it? It also helps some junglers stack their Blood Razor. Vision, that's something else. So if you get a kill and you can't really get a tower or a Baron or any of that other stuff, then try to get some deep vision. Try to go put some vision in their jungle. You'll see me do this a lot. I'll be like, okay, we got to kill bottom. I just saw the jungler top, so I'm going to sneak into their jungle and put up some good wards. Or pressure. Just always push lanes in. I know some people say, oh, hold on, I want to freeze, or whatever. That's wrong the vast majority of the time. You want to push. Like, there's sometimes in lane where you have a massive advantage over the enemy, and there's just not a lot of time. Like, it's just not a good idea to go roaming a lot yet, or there's no way you're going to take the tower because they have good wave clear, but you can zone them off of creeps. These are sometimes when it's okay to zone. Or if you have a heavy engage comp like Leona and you want to fight them in the middle of the lane, then you don't want to be pushing that much because you can't fight them under tower. So zoning can actually be a good thing. You'll see me do this sometimes with Nautilus because Nautilus needs some takeoff range because when he hooks people, it pulls them in. So that means you don't want to be hooking people under tower. So you want to pull them out to the middle of the lane. Don't give them free last hitting under their own tower. And that's a good time to zone. So there are situations for zoning, but in general, you want to be pushing lanes, trying to get pressure, especially if you get kills. Okay. When you get a kill, get an objective. So kills don't really matter that much. What matters is getting these objectives, and you want to go for the highest priority objectives that you can. So when you're about to get a kill, if there's a gank going in and you're like, okay, we're going to get some kills, you need to be thinking in your mind, what are we going to do directly after we get this kill? And sometimes it depends on how many people you kill. But you need to be thinking, okay, as soon as we clean this up, let's go rotate to dragon immediately. Or let's try to take this tower immediately after we get this. Just be thinking in your mind, what do we do after we get some kills, and then ping it and go there immediately. Like, do not hesitate. Have something in your mind, and then as soon as the fight ends, if it was a good outcome, go do something else. Like, think about what can you get really quickly. Okay, so this helps if you plan ahead. So just, you know, be thinking, okay, if we kill these people bottom, if we get both of them, we're going to get bottom tower. If we only get one of them, we're going to go get dragon. That type of thing. Or we see the jungler top, let's go, and the bottom lane just backed, let's go get dragon immediately. So just constantly have in your mind, what can we do? What are the conditions where we can get dragon or get this tower? And if those conditions are met, then go do it and tell your team to do it. So be very careful if the enemy jungler is alive when you're trying to figure out which objectives to do. So a big one is don't fight Baron if the enemy jungler is there and they have smite, especially if they are something that can smite and have an execute ability like Lee Sin or Nunu, like things that do big extra damage to monsters. Don't let them do it. Just so let's say your team kills 4 people in the middle and Lee Sin's left up in the jungle and your team wants to go get Baron, but you could get the tier 2 middle lane tower, the tier 3 base tower, and an inhibitor, but your team wants to go get Baron instead. Don't let them do that. Ping them back. Say, no, get those towers and that inhibitor. If you're getting a tower plus an inhibitor, it's definitely worth more than the Baron. So even if it's just, okay, we just killed 4 people, we can either rotate Baron or we can get the base tower and an inhibitor. Then get the inhibitor. Or just the inhibitor. Get the inhibitor. Do not rotate to Baron unless the jungler's dead, or unless you have a lot of map pressure on them, a lot of eyes, and you can zone them off. Just don't get into a smite fight in solo queue. Because a lot of times, honestly, those are 50-50. Like, it's just, okay, the Baron's getting to like 1,000 health. Who presses, smite, at the right millisecond to get it? You don't want your game to be determined by that, right? You do not want to get into a smite fight. So try to find other things you can do as much as possible. And if you are going to do Baron, your job as a support often is to try to ward and stall. Get out there and get in front of them. Like, think of yourself as like an NFL linebacker or something, even if you're Janna. Try to get out there and delay them and stall them. Do not let them get close to that Baron to steal it. Okay? Also, be very careful of heavy burst composition. So if they have something like a really fed Katarina or a really fed MF or a really fed Orianna or just something that, or Rumble or Kennen, or just something that can do a lot of AoE damage around the Baron pit, be very, very careful. So even if you just killed 2 people and they have up, let's say, a Kennen and an MF, do not all funnel in there and just let them set up and do an AoE to you, because they will melt you. The Baron gives a debuff that makes you take a lot of extra magic damage. I think it might be physical damage too, I'm not sure. But it gives you a huge debuff where you take a lot of extra damage if you try to do Baron. So AoE will absolutely destroy you, so be very careful if you're doing that. Or a Lux, or something like that. So just because you have the numbers, just because it's a 5-on-4 or a 3-on-5, don't think it's safe to go get Baron if they have a lot of AoE damage. Just go do something else. Go try to get some towers or something like that. Okay? And don't waste a lot of time pushing against good wave clear. So if they have a Ziggs in the middle, don't group as 5 and just keep pushing, trying to push that Ziggs in the middle. If you're not getting anywhere, go do something else. Like, just don't waste a lot of time pushing for things that you aren't going to be able to get. Like, figure out something else you can do. Either gain some vision and try to death push them, or try to rotate to Dragon or Baron, or try to split push. Do something else to work around that wave clear. Okay, so that's objectives. Hopefully you understand how and when you should take some of these objectives. This is the priority order. Just keep in mind these other things. You know, be careful of the jungler, heavy AoE, and if you're trying to get towers, don't waste your time trying to push into something that you're not going to get. Get your team to do something else. Okay, so how do you win the map? So once you win the map, you get these objectives, you think about these things, but how do you win the map in order to get opportunities to take objectives? So here's 6 really quick things that, well, probably won't be that quick, honestly, knowing my videos, but 6 really in-depth strategic things that will let you win the map so you can go get some of these objectives. Because usually you have to get an objective to make these happen. Sometimes you can just brute force down a tower or an inhibitor or something, but a lot of times you want to be able to kill people. Kill at least one opponent before you try these objectives. Okay, so number 1, rotate quickly to plays. So that's how you win the map. Number 1 is be there. If a fight's going on, you need to be there at the fight. So you need to be able to identify when people are going to be in trouble, when they're going to, when a huge fight's going to break out, and you need to be there and be prepared to contribute a lot to it. So, you know, in the mid game when people are grouping up, this is a bit easier to do, but that means don't be caught out trying to go ward somewhere when your team might be getting into a huge fight. Or don't back to base when your team is preparing to defend a Baron or to defend a Dragon or something like that. Like, just keep in mind, like, what's going on and try to be there. Okay, so watch your mini-map carefully. So if a fight breaks out, so this is really common in the bottom lane. This is something that a lot of, I think, lower elo supports may not do, is if a fight breaks out in the bottom or in the middle lane, and you know it's going to last for a little bit probably, then try to rotate up there and help. Ping your AD carry back and try to rotate up there to show up and help. Because if you show up, it can make a huge difference. Because a lot of times, especially lower elos, their support from the bottom lane won't go up for that. So just ping your AD carry back and then try to rotate mid and make a play. Especially if they start rotating into the river, if someone's trying to run away, or like the junglers are showing up, it's just like it's turning into a big scene. You need to try to show up. So make sure your AD carry backs up so they don't die when you leave the lane, and try to rotate up there. And just show up, even if you're late, because let's say that, you know, your jungler shows up, manages to kill the middle lane with your laner, but both your mid lane and your jungler are low health, and then their jungler shows up and starts chasing them around. If you show up, you might be able to turn that around and kill the jungler. So just try to show up as much as you can for those fights. Or certainly if a fight breaks out in the middle, you need to go get it. You need to be very territorial about your zones. If someone is in your jungle or is in your river, you need to go fight them. Do not let them do that. Do not let them walk all over your jungler in your own jungle, and do not let them walk up and down your river as much as possible. I mean, obviously if they're super fed and you can't fight them or something like that, that's a different story. But in general, your default should be territorial. Think, this is my territory. I'm going to ward it. I'm going to keep it safe. I'm going to control it. No one's fighting in my zone. Okay? Or no one's getting away with free stuff in my zone. There's going to be a fight. All right. So even if you show up a bit late, like let's say you're a bit late to the action, all of the, you know, all the people are dead or whatever, you can still help push middle lane, or you can give them wards. You can do a lot of things if you rotate up there. So it's often not a complete waste of time, even if you're a bit late to the party. It's better to be a bit late to the party than to not show up at all. So try to rotate quickly to plays that are happening, especially in middle lane or river, as often as you can. You know, often, you know, don't leave your AD carry alone too much, especially if the person won't back up and they just keep dying every time you leave. You know, you need to keep that in mind, because at lower elo, people don't understand that. They're like, my support keeps abandoning me, or my support won't help me out. I keep dying because my support leaves the lane. It's like, well, no, you don't. You keep dying because you don't back up when your support leaves the lane. And understand your AD carries. Like, some AD carries are much safer than others to do this. So if it's something like an Ezreal, he's fine if you leave the lane. He should be fine because he can last hit with his Q, so he's not going to miss that much CS. You know, if it's something like a Lucian or a Vayne, that's going to be a problem. But keep in mind what they have too. If they have a Janna in lane, for example, that's not a lot of kill pressure. They're probably not going to be able to go up and fight your AD carry 2-on-1 that easily. So just pay attention to the matchups and just think, will my AD carry be safe? Now, if they have something like a Lucian Leona and you have a Jinx, then you can't leave lane that much because they're going to kill her every time you leave the lane. So just keep in mind like the threat level on your AD carry if you leave, but try, like your default should be try to rotate and get to plays. Okay, number 2, impact the mid lane and the jungle. So do the best that you can to give the most impact possible to mid lane and jungle. This is how you win the map. So then you're not only winning your lane in terms of winning, whatever that's supposed to mean, because sometimes winning means breaking even too, right? So if you have a Jinx and they have a Lucian, if you break even in CS, even if you're a bit behind, you're winning because the Jinx is going to outscale the Lucian later in the game. So winning lane is not always winning CS and winning in kills. Sometimes it's just breaking even if you have superior, if you have a superior team comp later in the game. Okay, so how do you impact middle lane and jungle? Number 1 is ward. Ward for the mid laner, ward for the jungle. So that means a lot of times when you go get fresh wards, try to drop a ward off at the Raptor camps and try to ward somewhere around the bottom bush. So the bushes that are really close to middle lane that are also like a little bit south in the river. So just somewhere around there you need to ward. And it's important to ward the Raptors and not just, where's that map? I had a map open here. I'll just show you on the map. Okay, so let's say you're red side. I think that, excuse me. So let's say you just bought some wards. You're level, whatever, 5, whenever your first back is. You just bought some wards. You're heading back to lane. Try to ward either here for your jungler, if you can, and also ward like right here. It's not often safe to walk all the way over here and ward this. Also, if you ward this, you're not going to get vision of if the mid laner roams down here. So the best place, one of the best places to ward is right here because it gives you vision of the Raptors. So you'll know where their jungler is if they're just clearing camps, if they're not ganking. If you ward right here, which is really popular early on, you may not get vision of them while they're doing the Raptors. So yeah, you're going to see them if they come through here and try to go for this gank. But what if they just go right here, kill these Raptors, come down here to red, and then rotate over here and try to get you, and they have this pink bushed, or they have this control warded? Then you're not going to see that. You're not going to have any idea where they are. But if you ward right here, you can still see the mid laner if they rotate through here. You can see the jungler if they try to rotate for a gank over here. And you can see them if they're just clearing these Raptors. So then you'll know, okay, Lee Sin is at the Raptors, so I need to be more careful in bottom lane because he might rotate down here in about 30 seconds. So after he kills the Raptors, he might try to rotate down here and get us. Or after he kills Raptors and Golems, he might get us. Also, if you see the jungler right here, and your jungler's up top, or whatever, then they know they can go all in and perhaps even tower dive if they have to. They can go really hard on trying to get this kill top lane because they know the jungler is not going to show up because they're bottom lane. So it's just really important. And the mid laner, if the mid laner is thinking of going all in or possibly diving right here, if they know the jungler's right here and they're a smart player, then they might think, you know what, maybe I shouldn't do that because the jungler can just rotate right here and help, or even jump over the wall, depending on the jungler. So this is a really good way to ward right here. Get it in their jungle. It gives your jungler a lot of information. Or maybe their blue just spawned and your jungler is around this area and they're like, oh, I see him at red, so I can rotate over here and take his blue. Just getting information on where the jungler is so important. And the best places to ward for that are here and here early in the game. So right here is where you can ward safely, usually. So it is possible to get caught out while you're doing this, so be careful. If they have a ward like right here and they see you walking up here, then the jungler and the mid laner could rotate in to possibly kill you. So be aware of that. But, you know, Raptors, try to get the Raptors warded. And don't ward this. The reason you would ward this is if you're trying to get Dragon, so you can see people who are trying to dive you over this pit. That's the reason that people ward this in the mid game. But the better place to ward is the Raptors in the early game especially, because you want to see where the jungler is. Now, if you see the jungler top, let's say, and you think it's safe, then you can rotate down and pink ward either this or pink ward this. This is the best place to pink ward on the whole map, I think, because people don't check this that much, and you'll get vision of the jungler anytime he tries to rotate through here. Usually, you'll see if he's on the bottom side of the map at least. I mean, if he just runs up the lane, then you won't see him. Or if he rotates like this way, then you won't see him. But that's a really weird pattern. A lot of people won't do that because they're going to assume this bush is going to be warded. And just running up the lane like straight to golems can happen, but it's kind of rare as well. So getting a pink ward right here lasts for a very long time and is usually a really good ward. Now sometimes you can't go that deep or it's just really dangerous, so warding here is also pretty good. It gets vision of basically the same stuff. It's not going to catch as much vision if they go like this way or something, but it is still pretty good. But if you're doing that, if you're going to go down through here, make sure this bush is swept, because it's a really popular place for the enemy to ward as well. So, because I've made this mistake before, make sure that this bush is clear before you rotate in deeper, because if it's not clear, they're going to see you going in here, and they're going to potentially collapse on you and kill you when you go in there. So make sure this bush is clear before you go in there. Or just that you have a huge advantage, like your middle lane has completely pushed in their middle lane, and your bot lane is completely pushed in their bot lane, and you see the jungler top, and there's just no way they're going to rotate to get you. Then you can just walk on their wards and go do it. But if they see you doing that, they're going to know you warded somewhere in their jungle too, so they're going to come sweeping for it. So just, it's usually a good rule of thumb, do not rotate past areas that are going to have wards unless you sweep those wards first. Okay, so ward raptors, if you get a chance, ward down here if you can. And something that I like to do recently is use your pink ward to ward for the middle also. So drop it on their side, like here or here, especially if your mid laner's winning. So if they can defend that pink ward, or control ward as it's called now, if they can defend it, go ahead and drop it off for them. It'll usually last for quite a long time, gives them a lot of vision. And yeah, it's just a good idea. Because sometimes, especially if you're kind of having a hard time bottom lane and you can't control the area, so let's say once again we're bottom side, we're red. And we are, let's say I'm Janna and they're easy. Or I'm Janna, my AD carry is easy, and they have, I don't know, Lucian Braum or something early game. We're going to get pushed in, and we're not going to be able to fight them for a very, very long time. So that means that I'm not going to be able to put a pink ward here and control it, because they're going to sweep it, because we're going to be pushed in a lane. Or I'm not going to be able to control a pink ward here, and I'm certainly not going to be able to control a pink ward in the tri-bush. So it's a waste of time to put pink wards here. The only place where I could really safely put a pink ward is in my tri-bush if I think they're going to dive me. But if I have a normal green ward around dragon anyways, that probably shouldn't be a threat. So you still want to use your pink ward, however, you don't want to waste that opportunity. So just go down middle and just drop a pink here, or a pink here, or a pink here. So just because you can't safely pink your area doesn't mean you can't pink other areas. So use your pink somewhere else if you can't control the pink ward down here. Or if you don't need the pink ward down here. So let's say that you're just completely dominating, pushing them in, you're trashing them. Their jungler doesn't really have a good way to hop over this wall, or they just aren't ganking bottom at all. They keep ganking middle and top because you're just trashing bottom lane so hard. You don't need a pink ward in this bush. You may not need them around here because you're trashing them so hard, so just donate it to middle again. So that's one way that you can impact middle. Now my other point that I said is try to, I think I said, let me see, is try to gank mid lane. Impact, yeah, try to make a quick gank and sweep the vision. Okay, so once again, same deal. While you're down here warding for middle laner, you might as well just poke your head in there and just say, hey, can I get a gank? If they're in the middle of the lane, just see if you can just walk out and try to get a gank. You might get a flash. You might even kill them sometimes. So just poke your head. If you're already in the area, just make a stop there. Like, see if you can get a flash. See if you can get an exhaust or a ghost or whatever you can get. Just get something from them while you're standing there. You might as well. The same's true if you're a jungler. Like, if you're rotating around an area, if you're trying to invade, stick your head middle. Like, try, or if you're down here getting the scuttler or something early on, just take that extra 5 seconds and make a gank. Like, you might get a flash. You never know what you can get. So if you're in an area and you're roaming, like, try to make a play. Try to make a gank. So yeah, anytime you're warding in this area, heavily consider trying to make a play middle. Like, if the middle laner is super far ahead and you think the jungler might come in from up here to help out, then of course be careful. But in general, put that on sort of the little options in your head is I should at least try to go middle, probably. Another thing is sweep the vision of this area. That helps your jungler. So let's say that, oh, that's annoying. Okay, we'll do this. There we go. Let's say that you go over here and you're warding. Try to clear out the area. So doing a pink ward here not only gives vision, but it sweeps out this bush. so that the enemy doesn't have vision in this bush, which is going to make it a lot easier for your jungler to come in and gank from that bush. It's also going to give your mid laner a little bit more knowledge and safety. So let's say that there's a potential fight breaking out here. They think the gank's coming from somewhere. They're too far in the middle. They don't want to run backwards. They could run to one of these sides instead because they know it's going to be safer. So yeah, it's just really good. It denies vision. It gives vision. It's very powerful. If your mid laner is even or ahead, it's very good to put a pink ward there. You could also sweep out some of these bushes. You could sweep out this bush. Just sweep for the mid laner and try to get rid of the jungle, or get rid of the wards there, and that'll help your jungler gank a lot better on the bottom side. So ward for them. Try to put your pinks there. Try a gank out, and try to sweep wards out of the area. That helps out your jungler and your mid so much. It's tremendous. And so then you're not only winning your lane, you're also basically winning middle lane and winning jungler for people by doing that. Now, you're not going to get a lot of credit for that, and a lot of people won't realize that you're winning the jungle for them or that you're winning the mid lane for them, but you can know in your mind you're contributing a lot, probably because you're giving all this extra information and you're denying information from the enemy, and it just makes it a lot easier for your team to do what they want to do. So, I mean, you might be directly winning it for them if you gank them and get like 3 kills in the middle lane for them if you're Nautilus or something. So, very, very powerful, and I don't think a lot of people immediately consider that that's even an option. That's not even on their radar. So put it on your radar. Try to impact middle lane and jungle by warding, ganking, and clearing out wards in the area. Okay, so number 3, prepare key locations in advance. So you need to be thinking, and I'll go back to my map here. You need to be thinking, what should my team be doing next? So think about those priorities. Can we try to get Baron? Can we try to get Elder Dragon? How can we get these towers? Like, how can we get this middle tower? It's 50% health. Think of something that you want to do and prepare the area. So let's say a simple example is Dragon. So how do you prepare Dragon? Well, I've got a list here for you. Communicate timers. So press, I think it's control. It's either control or alt. I can't remember. I do it in game. I think it's control. Left click on something and it'll show the timer. So just press tab, left click on the dragon, and it'll post the dragon timer in the chat. So 45 seconds is usually a good time to ping it. That gives people enough time to back and prepare and get over there and get in the zone. So communicate the timers. Go back and buy yourself. So if you know that you want this dragon and it's 45 seconds, you need to back and then run over there. That's about how long it's going to take to get over there and get into position. Maybe even a bit earlier. So that means you need to refill your wards, spend all your money, try to buy items, get a bunch of control wards, get 2 or 3 control wards in case you have to fight over wards, and then show up to the objective. So you need to do this early. You can't wait until there's like 10 seconds until dragon spawns and then think, oh crap, I need wards, I need to go back. You can't do that. You're just not going to have wards, and that's going to be bad. So whenever possible, try to prepare for these things in advance. Just think a minute ahead of time. Okay, we want to try to go get dragon, or Baron's going to spawn. I need to get control of that area, or whatever. Or their inhibitor's about to respawn, so I want to set up a death bush near their base. That type of thing. Be thinking in advance. Ping people, let them know. Push up the lanes. Get help, sweep wards, and set up vision. Okay, so if you're about to try to get dragon, push up the middle lane and try to push up the bottom lane if you can. That gives you vision of where they are. So if you see, okay, Vayne's up here clearing these CS, clearing some creeps right here, and there's, a couple of people poking their head in this bush trying to defend this dragon, you're probably safe to go fight them because their Vayne's not going to be there. Whereas if it was not pushed up, let's say the creeps are right here instead, and they're not up here at their tier 2, then Vayne maybe not killing those creeps. She might actually be with their team trying to help. But she's been baited by these creeps, and so their team is split up, and you can get a good fight. So I know that sometimes pushing in lanes doesn't seem like a big deal before you do objectives. It's a huge deal because it gives vision, and also it forces them into a difficult decision. Let's say that there's 20 creeps that are kind of stacked up right here, and they're about to land on this tower. Well, do they try to fight you at dragon, or do they lose 20 creeps, which is about the equivalent of, I don't know, 400 or 500 gold? That's basically a kill. So you get if they just sit here and play around with you near dragon and no one fights, you basically get a free kill because they're going to lose all those creeps to the tower, and the tower is going to take a lot of damage. The tower might even die. So having that extra pressure on lanes is tremendous when you're trying to set it up. especially lower elos, because people won't think. They'll just think, oh, there's a big creep wave here, so I'm going to go fight. I'm going to go get this. And my team's going to be smart enough not to fight. Or maybe they're not even thinking about their team. They're just thinking CS, must get CS. Then you can engage on them and fight them. Because a lot of people don't respect. They don't look at their mini-map, and they don't respect that, hey, there aren't people here, so we shouldn't fight. So they get into bad situations. So sweep the wards, clear out the wards in the area, and set up vision. So it's really important, especially with vision, to think, okay, I only have 3 wards that I can place on the map. Usually as support, especially at lower elos, you're going to be the only person warding. So, you know, if you're trying to set up for Dragon, don't go up here and use a bunch of your wards warding weird areas. Like, don't ward this and like maybe this if you're trying to set up for Dragon, because you only have 3 wards. So you need to identify an objective and try to get your vision there. And I know this is difficult when the map's wide open. So let's say that all the tier 1s are down and your team's just running everywhere and you're trying to ward, but you can't because, like, how do you cover this entire map, which is 3 wards? That's a major problem. 4 wards, I guess, with your control ward. And the answer to that is make it a smaller map. And the reason that the way that you do this is you identify an objective that you want, and you prepare that objective, and you ping your team, and you tell your team to go do it. So now instead of having to ward the entire map, you can, it depends on the time. I mean, sometimes you have to have a ward on Barons. You have to sacrifice one of your wards. But in general, let's say if you're getting Dragon, don't ward on this side of the map, except maybe 1 ward for Baron, depending on the time. And that makes it so much easier to control this. You don't need to ward your own jungle at that point because you're trying to do something aggressive here. You're trying to get an objective. So really, the only area that you have to ward is potentially this. So that makes it just a quarter of the map. That's much more manageable for 3 wards than the entire map. So find an objective and ward it. So let's say you want Dragon. All right, well, you need to sweep out, try to sweep this, 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 and this, if you can, with control wards or a sweeper. Just try to get this area, take away as much vision as you possibly can. Step 2, let's say that you are, well, I'll say red side just to keep it consistent. If you're red side, you want to get a ward right here for sure, and probably right here. Definitely these 2 spots, so you can see them when they're advancing on you from their main areas. Another good place to ward might be right here if you think someone could potentially try to steal the Dragon. If they steal the Dragon and die for it, it's not the end of the world, because if they die, that means you might be able to go get towers, or you might be able to rotate to Baron. If you just kill their jungler and they suicided in to get a Dragon and your team's really powerful, you might be able to rotate over and get Baron off of it, right? So being able to kill somebody for a Dragon is not ideal. Obviously, you wish you got the Dragon, but sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world. Now, killing one person and they get Baron is not a good trade. That's really bad. But anyways, ward this, sweep the area, try to get control of it. And that's how you prepare an area. Now try to recruit people to help you. Tell the jungler or the mid laner, hey, help me ward, help me sweep this. Like, if there's a chance they could be contesting this as well and just sitting in this bush, you don't want to go up and try to ward that by yourself, right? So you want to have people with you to help you ward and set this up whenever you possibly can. Now, if you're a good player, you're probably going to be preparing this pretty far in advance. So your team may not be down there yet. They might be pushing middle lane or pushing bottom lane. But you know, just keep it on your radar to try to get help. Okay. So that's what I mean by preparing areas. And it doesn't just have to be Dragon. You can create your own objectives too. I talk about this in my 5 tips to help you carry in solo queue as support. Make your own objectives. So if Dragon's not up, and it's too early to fight Baron, and all the middle towers are down, and everyone's just kind of wandering around, create an objective. So just say, you know what? I think they're going to try to rotate down here between this lane and this lane, because our bottom laner keeps pushing up to here, and I know he can 1v1 whoever their bottom laner is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sweep this area. I'm going to identify this area as an objective that I want to control. I want to control this zone to catch them in rotations. So I'm going to sweep this, I'm going to sweep this, and I'm going to try to ward this, and pink ward this bush. And then I'm going to get the middle laner and maybe the jungler to come with me and hang out in this bush. And when we see them rotating and try to kill bottom lane, we're going to jump out of this bush, we're going to kill them, and then we're going to go down to bottom lane and get this tower. That's what I mean by setting up your own objectives. So the objective here is gaining vision of this area and trying to death bush somebody. So don't try to just sit in this bush if you haven't swept and if you don't have these areas warded, because what happens if it's you and your jungler sitting here, and you see their jungler pop out right here, and you don't have this warded, and you're just like, okay, sweet, and you engage on them, and then the other 3 people jump out of this bush because they were already rotating bottom to try to kill this person. What if they all jump out of this bush and kill you because you didn't have vision? So just make sure that you have vision of the area and that they don't have vision, and wait in a bush. And then just think carefully, like, don't fight them if you're going to lose. So if you see the jungler and 3 other people here and it's just you and your jungler, like, probably don't go fight them unless your jungler is like super hyper fed and it's like a Master Yi or something. Don't go fight them. So just think carefully, make your own objectives, and try to control very specific zones. Okay, a few of the last ones here. How long have I been going on? 40 minutes, geez. I thought this was going to be a shorter video. I'll put some timestamps in so people can navigate it. I think a lot of people really enjoy these videos, even though they're a bit longer, because they give so much depth, so much analysis. You can really understand and try to apply this to your own game. Okay, so understand and respect power. So that means that you, first of all, identify power. So that's either power on your team or power on the enemy team, both. So press tab, look at items, and just think carefully, how powerful is this champion right now? Because I know sometimes we can all get caught off guard, right? If we're just like, oh my god, I didn't understand that mid laner was that fed, right? Like they got 5 kills middle lane and it's a fizz. I didn't know he could one-shot me. Well, you should have known because you should be pressing tab and looking. Whenever somebody dies, you should look at tab and say, okay, who just got that kill? Did they get any key items for it? Did Fizz just complete his Lich Bane? Like, think about key items. Did Caitlyn just complete her Infinity Edge? And, you know, my Lucian still only has a BF sword and a pickaxe or whatever. You know, think of these power spikes. Like, did they just get a key item? How many kills do they have? How powerful are they right now? How well do they play? Are they just really outplaying everybody? Do they just seem to be a superior mechanical player to a lot of people on your team? Keep all of these things in mind. Take notes. You know, I guess you don't physically have to take notes, but take mental notes of who's powerful and what you should do about it. So if it's an enemy that's powerful, do not fight them. Try to avoid them. So let's say you're on the map and you have a couple of options. So let's say that your team is in middle lane. You're kind of pushing up right now, and you see their 4-0 Fizz top, and you see their 3-2 Lee Sin also top, and no one else on their team has any kills yet. You have an option. Do you rotate up to try to fight and try to help your top laner and your jungler out if they're fighting up here in a 2-on-2 fight? Maybe, but they're really, really strong. Or let's say you have another option where you could just push middle lane with your AD carry, and, you know, the top laners are occupied bottom, and whoever their person is they have defending this, like let's say it's just their support or something. Let's say it's like a Lulu trying to defend their mid tower. Don't go up here and fight that. Go down here, try to get the tower, try to rotate over and get a dragon. Do something. Like, do not go where their power is if you can at all help it. Now, sometimes it's unavoidable because they group up. Another example might be, let's say that they have a... I don't know, a 6-0 Fiora that just keeps split pushing top lane. You have an option. Can you go up there and try to fight her? Or can you just potentially leave her alone and go fight everyone else on their team? The better option is usually go fight everyone else and leave the fed person alone. Like, do not keep messing with them. Or if it's in your lane, right? Like, let's say that Lucian's 4-0 in your lane, because some bad things have been happening. The jungler's been camping you, or mid lane tried to rotate down and got caught out in the woods, or your jungler tower dove him and died. Whatever the case is, let's say that your lane is fed, or you just got hooked a lot by Blitzcrank or whatever. Your lane is fed, they're 4-0, and you have no kills on your side, and you're down like a lot. You're down a lot of items, and your jungler is thinking, okay, I want to come down and gank. Ping him back. Say, do not fight that. Don't fight that right now because we're going to lose. So just stay away from their power. Just say, hey, go somewhere else. Go to a winning lane. The junglers should always be ganking winning lanes. Like, you never want to gank losing lanes as junglers. Like, I know sometimes people ping. The AD carry might be pinging, please help me out here. We're getting destroyed bottom. I need some help. Don't. Do not fight. I mean, maybe help, like, come down and ward. Maybe scare them. Try to get a flash or something, but... or just wave clear at tower, but do not fight them. Stay away from their power. Conversely, go with your power. Leverage your power. Follow it around. So let's say that Your mid laner's getting pretty fed. This person's 3-0. Ward more for them. I've already said how you want to ward some. Do even more. Ward this side of the jungle for them when you come in. Like, help them out. Give them as much warding as possible. Gank their lane a lot. Rotate out of your lane and come in here. Like, if, let's say they just got a kill and the mid laner burned their flash, come up here and sit on that person. Like, keep ganking them over and over again if you can as a support. Like, if your mid laner's super fed, follow them around. If they get the first tower down, like, go rotate with them. Say, hey, man, hey, mid, come with me. We'll come down. We'll kill the jungler at their red. Like, stick with your powerful person and try to go around the map and make things happen with them. So avoid enemy power and use your power as much as you possibly can. Another good example of this is don't fight without your power. So let's say that your top laner gets super fed and their teleport's down and they're pushing up a lane here and you have a choice in middle lane. Well, we could try to fight this. Let's say, even if both top laners are up here, let's say it's not even uneven. That sounds weird, but let's say you're not fighting a 4v5, you're just fighting a 4v4. Let's say that your top laner is 4-0 Irelia against like 0-3 Gnar, and they're both sitting here fighting. They both don't have teleports. That's all good. You see all four people in the middle. No one else on your team has many kills, and let's say their mid laner is super fed. Let's say their mid laner is 5-0, and your Irelia is 4-0. Well, this is disproportionate amount of power on the map, right? Because your power's up here, their power's in the mid lane. If you go fight right now in a 4v4 fight, you're probably going to lose because their power's here. Their mid laner's here with all of those kills. Whereas your Irelia, who has all that gold, is way up here. They're not doing anything in this fight, so the enemy's probably going to win the fight. I mean, obviously that's a super simplified version, but just think about it. If their powerhouse is at the fight and your powerhouse is not, that's really, really bad. So you want to try to fight when your powerhouse is there and their powerhouse is not. That's ideal. At the very least, you want to fight when both powerhouses are at the same fight. Do not fight an unfavorable fight. Just think carefully about who's fed. Do I really want to fight this? Is my power here? Or if, you know, your AD carry is getting red for some reason, instead of fighting in the middle when you should be fighting in the middle, back up and wait for them to come down to help you out. Okay, dominate the vision game. I've talked about this a lot. You know, buy tons of control wards. Buy a lot of control wards. You can now hold 3 of them. Don't just buy one and stick it in some obscure bush somewhere. This is a possible exception early in the game. This is a place where you might want to just keep it in that bush. It's difficult to say because it's such a great ward. A lot of times they don't find it, and it is just really, really good vision. But except for this one particular spot, or this spot, I mean, that's the equivalent on the other side of the map. Except for this one particular spot, you should be using control wards aggressively. So don't just stick your control ward like right here and let it sit there for 30 minutes and not ever buy another control ward. Like, yeah, it's good, it's giving you vision, but you're not denying vision from the enemy team. So rotate it around constantly. If you see a ward right here and you have a control ward right here, and you have extra control wards in your inventory, pop your control ward right here, move it, and get rid of that ward. Like, use it aggressively to get wards. Remember, you get some gold for getting wards. I think, isn't it like 25 gold or something? So it's reducing the cost of buying more pink wards. It doesn't fully fund it, but it reduces it a little bit. Because oftentimes it's much more important to deny the enemy vision than it is just to keep a really safe pink ward that they're not contesting. So you want to make it a nightmare for them to have vision on the map. You want to constantly walk in, sweep things, clear wards, aggressively use your control wards. You want to give them the blackout treatment, like where they can't see anything on the map. Just understand ward presence, if at all possible. Now, this takes a bit of intuition, but you need to be able to see what is not seen a lot of the times, right? So this is a bit advanced, but just think carefully. Just think logically. Where are they likely to ward? How are they reacting based on how my team is moving? So, for example, and this is very common, let's say that you have a pink ward in this bush. Let's say that you're maybe, well, let's say you're red side again, and let's say that you have a pink ward in this bush, and so you know this area is clear. And your mid laner wants to rotate down and make a play. Let's say they're Syndra, they just push people in, they're trying to rotate down and make a play. All right? Let's say that you have them about in the middle of the lane here, you're trying to bait them. You're just thinking, okay, I'm going to get hooked by Thresh as soon as he hits like right here to get baited, or something like that. You're planning a bait. and you're not acting that obvious, you're not running at them yet, you're just kind of positioning, just kind of getting ready for a bait, and as soon as they walk by the dragon area, then you see their enemy team just start running back miraculously, right? They're just like, okay, they're running back. You need to be thinking in your head, okay, that means that something in here is warded because they just started reacting. Now, it's totally possible that the mid laner could have just pinged, you know, mid laner missing, and they ran away. But the more likely scenario is they saw them on wards, potentially. So you need to ping your team and say, hey, I think there's a ward in here somewhere. And so the next time you back, look around this area, sweep the area, see if you can find the ward. So yeah, I mean, that's just all there is to it. Just think about it. Or let's say that you're on blue side and you have this control warded, and you're just about to try to get a bait, and your jungler is coming up here, and they're trying to, you know, make a gank over here. If the enemy starts running, as soon as the jungler steps out of this bush right here, that means something in here is probably warded. So just keep that in mind. Just think, okay, how is the enemy reacting, and you know, where do they likely have wards? And keep that in mind, ping it, tell your allies, and try to sweep it or clear it out eventually. Also, just assume there's going to be wards in popular spots, especially later in the game. So if you're walking into their jungler, like I said earlier, just assume this is going to be warded. If you didn't sweep it, something in this area is going to be warded by the enemy, most likely. So don't think you're safe just to walk down here and, you know, try to make a play on their red buff, or walk down here and try to get a really deep ward if you don't sweep this first. It's probably going to be warded. You know, don't think if you haven't swept or put a pink anywhere in the river, don't think you're going to be able to walk up and down this river without getting spotted. You know, maybe you are Zyra and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to go make a play middle. You haven't swept any of this. And the jungler is like waiting for you in this bush, or they just pop over this wall or something and kill you. You're going to be thinking, God, how did they know? Like, I'm always so unlucky. It's like, no, you didn't sweep the area. They probably have it warded. They saw you and they went to go kill you because you're an easy target. So just keep in mind that the enemy does have wards. They're probably warding almost as much as you are, and they probably will react to the wards. So just keep in mind, they do have wards. They probably see you in popular spots if you haven't swept it. Okay? And just call out ward timers. If you see an enemy place a ward, or you suspect a ward is in the area, call it out. Say, hey, they just warded the tri-bush, 3 minutes on that ward. Or early in the game, say, hey, they just warded that tri-bush, 1 minute on that ward. Like, not all junglers will take advantage of that. Most of them won't, but some of them might. So it's good to give them the information. And finally, just monitor your ward timers. So this is a bit harder to do, but just think, okay, my 3 wards that I placed are going to go down in about 30 seconds. So if possible, I need to try to go back and get more wards, you know, in 15 seconds so that I can come back out here and reward this. So sometimes that's a bit advanced, but just try to kind of have a feel for when your wards are going to time out and be ready to replace them if you can. It's not always possible because it's more important to stick with your AD carry until they want to back, until they need an item, rather than going back and getting your own wards. It depends on the situation, but just keep in mind that's a thing you should be monitoring. Create pressure in lanes. This is the final thing I'm going to talk about, and we'll end this hour-long episode here. Create pressure in lanes. That is also how you win the map. Remember, these are 6 ways you can win the map, which ultimately wins you the game, much more so than winning your lane. Okay, so how do you create pressure? Well, ZZ Rot Portal, which I'll talk about here in just a second, but that creates a lot of pressure. It's an extremely good item. It's the best support item by a very, very large margin. So you should be getting that item and using it a lot. So that's one way. Another way you can create map pressure is just pushing up lanes. So just saying, okay, we're going to push up this lane before we do dragon. We're going to kill a bunch of creeps, and then we're going to rotate over to dragon. That's another way to do it. Supporting a split pusher. So let's say maybe your objective is, I want to protect the split pusher. This Riven is super fed. She wants to split push top. She can solo anybody on their team. So let's say this tower's down. We're on red side. How do I help Riven out? Well, I come down here and I ward this. And I potentially ward this. So I ward here and I ward here, and that helps the split pusher split push because I'm now giving them vision. So that creates pressure because that means she's going to be able to push up a little bit safer because you've given her wards. And so that means that they're going to have to send 2 people up here to deal with that. And now maybe you can finally take down that bottom tower once they send 2 or 3 people up here to deal with Riven. So that's another way of creating pressure, is by giving additional vision to other people who are creating pressure. It gives them a lot more power, a lot more freedom in what they're doing. So we've got ZZ Rot Portal. We just have the old-fashioned just kill creeps and push it up. We have helping the split pusher. Also just creating blackout, like really managing wards creates a lot of pressure because they can't go places, or they're very scared if they're a smart player, or you just kill them a lot if they're a dumb player. So just blacking out vision, not ever letting them get vision in areas where they want to get vision, creates a lot of pressure because they can't go out there anymore. I mean, we all kind of know that feeling, right? If you're on blue side, or any side really, and like all of the outer towers are down and you're just sitting in your base and this entire map is black, right? Like, it's very scary. Like, you know, sometimes people are like, geez, this support's not warding. Why doesn't the support go ward? He only has wards here and here. Why doesn't he go out? Well, it's because the entire map is black and we have no idea where they are. Because we've just lost a couple of fights and I haven't been able to replace wards. Like, wards are not magical little things. Like, you have to have map pressure. You have to have help a lot of times to go place wards. So if the entire map is black, you can't go do it. I mean, just think around the Baron Pit area. If this is completely black and they could be doing Baron, how scary is that? Like, it's extreme map pressure because they could be in this bush. They could be in this bush. They could be waiting right behind this rock to get you as soon as you poke your head out right here. Like, they could be waiting in this bush. They could be anywhere. So, you know, denying vision is another way, a great way of getting map pressure. So picking lanes with good wave clear is a good way to push the lanes. Pushing lanes before you back, and then pushing lanes in preparation for whatever you want to do, whatever your objective is key. Okay, so how does this translate into support? So who are the best supports at winning the map? I'll bet you can guess them. Can you guess them right now? I know you can see one because you know I'm going to say that one, but I have, I think, 3 other supports other than Janna that are good at map pressure. See if you can guess them right now. Who am I going to recommend as supports that give good map pressure? If you've watched my channel before, see if you can just play a guessing game, or even if you haven't, see if you can think in your mind, okay, who does these things that I'm talking about here? Who's someone that can do these things to win the map? Who are some champions that might be bad at doing that? Okay, I'll give you 3 more seconds to think. Okay, here we go. Let's see if you guess correctly. I'll do them one at a time here. I'll kind of slow roll you. Okay, there's another one. Tom Kench. Okay, so we have Janna. All right, so why is she the queen of map pressure? Okay, first of all, she's extremely fast. She gets a lot of extra movement speed with her W, and I've said a lot of this before, but it's important to think about, like, why, you know, I just explained why winning the map is so important and how you actually win the map, but now maybe you can piece it together and say, oh, that's why he's saying Janna is so good all the time for these reasons. It's not because she kills a lot of people, it's because she wins the map, and that's how you win the game. Okay, so Janna is extremely fast, first of all. That means that you can do most of these things because you have a lot more speed. Fast champions are very, very good at doing these things. They can rotate, they can get to plays quickly, they can ward, they can try to gank lane really quickly. If the gank doesn't work out, they can go do something else on the map. They can return to bottom lane quicker. They can prepare key locations because they're going to be able to go back, get wards, and get back to the spot faster to ward things. They can sweep wards and get away without getting caught by the enemy. They can move around the map and help, you know, other people move around the map, like Janna with her aura, to get to things, to respect power and play what they want to do. They can dominate the vision game, like I just said. They can build a ZZ Rot portal to create pressure. So she's very fast. She can build a ZZ Rot earlier than any other support in the game, realistically, like while still getting good support items. And the reason is she only needs brown boots. So because she's just naturally super fast, you don't have to get tier 2 boots. That saves you 600 gold. She doesn't have to get any mana regen, although sometimes they get a fairy charm or 2. But she doesn't have to get a chalice like Sona or Nami, although that's debatable whether you'd even get that item anymore on them. And the coin item gives you the most gold, especially in the mid game. Like, yeah, the blue item gives you some gold if you attack people, but outside of lane, how often are you walking up and auto-attacking when 4 people are grouping middle, right? Like, it doesn't happen that often. So, but how often are minions dying around the map, even when you're sieging or even when you're grouping up? A lot. Minions are constantly dying around the map. So that's why coin gives you the most gold over a long period of time in the game. Maybe not early on. It may not outscale the blue item super early, but, you know, up until the first 20 minutes or so, it's really, really good. And that's usually when you can get a ZZ Rot on Janna, is around 20 minutes. Some of the other champions, it might take to like 25 minutes to get it. So she can get it a lot faster. She also gets a lot of assists. All you have to do is throw shields on people and you get assists in team fights. Like, Janna has more assists than almost anyone else because it's so easy to get them because she's so safe. So she never dies if you're playing her properly. And she just gets an assist on any kill that she's even remotely close to because she just throws a shield. If someone attacks if you put a shield on somebody and they do anything, if they attack the person once, you get an assist for it. Versus someone like Tahm Kench has to physically hit the person, either with his tongue lash or an auto attack in order to get the assist. So Tahm Kench is not going to get nearly as many assists at the end of the game as Janna is. His primary function is saving people with W, and you don't get an assist for that because you're not killing someone. You're just actively saving an ally. So she gets a lot of gold. She saves a lot of gold. So that means she gets the ZZ Rot faster, which means she gets the map pressure going much faster. She's really great in chaotic situations. So you're roaming around. She's really good at saving multiple allies and making sure people don't die. So that creates pressure because people are just alive to do things. It helps you dominate the vision game because you're going to have a numbers advantage. You know, if you have 5 people and you just killed one of them, and they only have 4 people, that means you can more safely go into their woods and ward them up. That helps her prepare things. That just helps her with all kinds of stuff. And finally, like I mentioned, her passive helps your teammates rotate faster. It gives them 24% extra movement speed. Even more than that. It's like 20... No, it's percentage-wise, it's 8. 8% move speed, which if most champions have around, 330, that translates into about 25 or 26 movement speed. That's so fast. That's like you're giving everyone on your team an extra brown pair of boots. It's really good for rotations. So Janna, probably top of the list in terms of supports who win the map. All right, Tahm Kench, very similar. He can buy a ZZ Rot early. He's very good in small skirmishes, and his ult allows him to rotate really fast. So if you want to, you can rotate middle, get those kills. You can take your ADC with you. His ultimate is just awesome for rotating, getting kills, catching people out. It's just really, really powerful if you communicate it with allies. Just ping that it's up. Say, hey, come over here. Let's go ult middle. Like, get the jungler, say, hey, let's go ult middle right now. We can kill him. And then just rotate behind him. Just communicate, and he's probably the master of rotations. He's very, very good at rotations. All right, Nautilus. So once again, he can buy ZZ, he's great at skirmishes, and he's really, really good at ganking. So if you gank middle lane with Nautilus and you have your ultimate up, they're probably dead. So his ultimate, if you use it properly, is almost always a kill. It's so good, because you just ult, you wait until they're about to fall down, and then you hit them with the hook, and then you auto-attack them. And that's like 5 seconds of CC or something. It's crazy. So he's very, very good at all of these things as well. And then Trundle, finally, is also very good. So he can buy a ZZ Rot portal. He's good at skirmishes. You notice that's a common trend. All of these are very good at skirmishes, and they can buy a ZZ Rot. He can auto-attack reset, so for clearing wards faster. So if they put a ward right in front of you, it depends on how much attack speed you have from your runes, but you can auto-attack it, press Q, it resets your auto-attack, and then auto-attack it one more time and kill it. So that helps you kill wards faster. So you can kill that pink ward, or that control ward now, faster and get the heck out of there before anyone shows up. That's really nice and very underestimated. Having auto-attack resets. Leona has one as well. Auto-attack resets are very, very good for clearing wards and getting out safely. He's very fast with his W. So if you throw a W down, you can run in, clear the ward, and then run away really quickly before anyone shows up or can do anything about it. So he's very fast in small bursts with his W and with the auto-attack reset. He also has great zoning, and he's great at cracking tanks. So the main reason that you pick a Trundle is to crack a tank. So if they have a Nasus, a Nunu, a Darius, just something that's going to build really tanky, especially things that are very immobile, that can get really, like, pinned by the pillar, he's very good. And that pillar also helps you ward, because if someone's trying to come and stop you from warding, you just drop that pillar. A lot of times that's going to give you a chance to ward and get away safely. So the pillar is great engage, it's great initiation, and it's great disengage if you want to get out of a situation. So Trundle's very good. He's not as good against assassins because he doesn't have any way to shield or really hardlock CC anybody that's trying to get on your AD carry if they're very mobile, like a Fizz or a Zed or something like that. But he's great at kind of these mid lane tank champions. So I think if mega tanks start coming back, Trundle's going to come back in a big way. Alistar, he's okay. he's still his same old self. He can roam very well, but the nerfs are really huge. I'll talk about that in the tier list video, but he's much worse than he was pre-patch, I think. But he's still okay. But these are all champions I would recommend who can win the map, who can do these kind of things that I just described. So stay tuned for that. We're probably at about an hour here. Yeah, about an hour and 4 minutes. So we'll go ahead and end it here. But hopefully you enjoyed it. I will put some timestamps in so that people can navigate it as they wish. And one thing that you can do with these videos also, and I've had people say they do this, is just put it on in the background. You know, if you just like listening to it, you know, there's not a lot of visuals with some of these videos. You can listen to it in your car. You can listen to it when you're trying to fall asleep, or when you're just kind of chilling, just hanging out, you can listen to it. So that's just a suggestion that some people have made, how they enjoy these videos by listening to them that maybe people haven't thought of before. So you can listen to me in your car or whatever. You know, if you just want to learn some League strategy and you're just driving home from work, that can be a good option. So anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to check out the other videos. Like I said, I have a how to manage your lane video, how to think about matchups. I have a top 5 just overall, like how to win as support, which mentions some of these things, but also has some different things in there. So be sure to check that one out. I have a tier list video for 6.21, which is still very relevant. A lot of the champions that I talk about in 6.21 are still very, very good in this patch. And what else? I made another one as well. I don't remember. I have a bunch of these videos, so check them all out. They're all a good time. They are all kind of long, but they offer super in-depth strategy so that you can really make the most informed choices possible and gain a lot of ELO. I've had several people message me and say, oh my gosh, I've gained so much ELO after watching your videos, because I just give a very, very high level of analysis that you can really use to win your games. Like other streamers, you know, they'll talk about some of these things and they'll show you a good time, but not as much depth as I'm going into here. So anyways, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Be sure to check out the content on the channel, and I'll see you next time.